All right, so here is the sad state of my existing deck. You can see it's in desperate need of some attention, but I'm going to show you with a little movie magic right here of just how drastic of a change I did with just a couple of days of work and actually on a very tight budget of only a couple $1,000 to completely restore this deck without replacing any boards. Here's some before and after that you can see just how big of a change it is. And I'm going to show you the products I used, how I did this, as well as some coupon codes down in the description below.
All right, hey everyone, let's talk about getting this deck redone. So this is a existing deck that was about 34 years old, and I don't want to pay to get it all redone, but we're in the middle of a exterior remodeling of the house, and this used to be a sunroom where I'm standing right now. That's why this decking is different, and you can see this temporary railing that we put up because there was glass there before. But then the rest of this deck is really in bad shape, but I think it's salvageable. So that's what I'm going to show you today, is how to salvage an older deck without having to replace it. Now, we got quotes to replace this deck. I really wanted to potentially replace and rebuild the whole thing, but it was $45,000, and that wasn't one quote. In fact, that was one of the cheaper quotes. I had a quote up to $60,000 to redo this deck. Now, it's about 850 square feet. It does kind of wrap around the house a little bit there, so there is some size to it, but I didn't really want to spend that much money. So what I'm going to cover here today is how to recoat this deck, not with a stain, not with a paint, but something that actually holds up. They say it's 10 times tougher, has at least a 3-year warranty. So I'm going to be really excited to see how I can repair this. Now, what I'm going to do is restore the deck surface. I'm going to replace the railing, right, completely. And I'm not going to cover too much on that for this video. Really, I'm going to talk about more about the surface. I'm actually going to remove the stairs as well. So the stairs and this little built-in shelf, I'm going to take that out. And so I'm going to clean up this deck. I have pressure wash it, clean it, and then we're going to prime it and put the coating down. So I'll go through all of those steps in this video, and so follow along. Let's look into this deck a little bit closer to see what it is. And now, before I get too far, I have to say this is Nate, and this is the Nader Tater channel. Please consider liking the video and subscribing to my channel to see more of my content. All right, so let's look at this deck here. All right, so you can very clearly see that the deck underneath the sunroom is actually in pretty good shape. But then as soon as you get outside of where that was, now we have flaking and peeling old stain that needs to come up. So that will be pressure washed. And then I have some boards that are off to lifted up. So I need to screw those down. And I have things like roofing nails in here that roofers have left over the years. So all that stuff I got to get cleaned up. You can see there's a couple of them that I've actually had screwed down in the past just to secure them. But I'm going to clean this up some more because we really want to have the deck in good structural shape before we do this coating. All right, and then any places, if you have bigger cracks that you want to get filled, they do make a caulk that you can fill in those cracks before you actually go over it. So I'm going to fill in some of these cracks with that, but I'm going to do my best to actually try to salvage all of the wood, just secure it, make it more robust, and then coat it. Now, if you have any surfaces that are too rotten or broken, you obviously can pick up boards and replace them selectively, and then they will all blend in with this new coating, because this coating is a solid color. It completely hides what's underneath. All right, so it's getting kind of hot out here, but I have gotten the deck cleaned up for the most part. Got all the railings off. I screwed down a lot of the boards, any of them that were loose or popping up. Mainly the butt joints on the middle of the deck was the problem. The rest of it seems to be okay, but they use nails and they use a nail gun, so it's only those little, whatever they call it, the D head, so it's not even a full round head. So I had a lot of them that were picking up. But I think I'm able to salvage this deck now. Obviously, if I wanted to do a better job, I would replace all the boards. But I'm trying to make the best out of what I have here and not replace the wood, and instead just see how well this liquid rubber covers the deck and, you know, prevents any further deterioration of this wood. So next, what I have to do is prep it for the primer and the cleaner. So for that, I'm going to pressure wash the whole deck, and then so long as I can get the pressure washer to clean up enough of this paint, you know, actually there's not a whole lot of paint left on it, but if I get it cleaned up good enough, then I should be good. There's some areas over here in the shade that it is actually kind of flaky. You can see there is still some paint left on there, some stain, solid stain or paint. I'm not sure which one it is, but that one needs to come up. Now, you don't have to take all of the paint off. If it is actually adhering well, the liquid rubber can adhere to clean prepped paint, so long as it's you know, well bonded to that wood. So now I'm going to get the pressure washer out. I'm going to use a floor cleaner, which is like a circular, you know, spinning. It helps clean up more of it, but I'm sure I'll have to get the wand out as well to get between the boards or any tight spaces up against the wall or up against other obstacles there, to make sure I clean it well enough. So let's get to that, and then we will start doing the cleaning. All right, so we got it all pressure washed now, and starting to dry a little bit now. It's kind of late afternoon, and it has dried up just slightly, but I need to do the cleaner now. You know, you might not have to do the full pressure wash. Actually went over kind of twice with that surface cleaner to get as much of this old stain or paint, whatever it was, up wherever I could. But this deck and patio cleaner further helps just get rid of any kind of mildew or anything else that's going to prevent the primer from sticking well. And as you know, anything with paint or stain or coating, the prep is what matters the most. So I want to go ahead and take the extra level of pressure washing it first, then using this cleaner, and then I'm going to actually pressure wash it again. But this time with the pressure washer, I'm gonna not have to be as aggressive. So I actually have this little sweeper that I really like, because it's great for cleaning up without having to the surface cleaner doesn't really clean off the deck all the way with all the stuff. So this is the liquid rubber deck and patio cleaner. It does about 200 to 400 square feet per gallon. So I have about 850 square feet, so that's why I got 3 gallons of it. That should be 600 to 1200 square feet, so right in the middle of it, which should be good. Now, after you spray it on, you can do it a couple different ways. I'm going to use a backpack sprayer. That's my preferred method, but you can also use like a roller if you wanted to. So I'm going to use the backpack sprayer, let it kind of set for a few minutes. You don't want it to dry, that's why I'm doing it later in the afternoon. I get a little bit more shade out here. And then you want to use a stiff brush to actually brush that cleaner into the surface, and it helps agitate it, gets, you know, a little bit of the sides of the deck boards as well. So I'm gonna do all of that. I'm gonna do it in sections because I have too much deck to do without letting it dry. So I'll do a couple sections of it, and then I'll get the pressure washer out, use that sweeper, clean it up, and then we can let it set and dry so that we can get ready for the primer later. All right, we'll call that a day. I got it all cleaned up, got it pressure washed off, rinsed off, got the hose and stuff put away. So now I'm ready for this wood to dry out. Now if I have any rain or something, I'm gonna have to wait a little bit longer. There is a chance of rain, but once it dries out, then it should be ready for kind of a quick final inspection. I might do a leaf blow it off to get any other dust and debris off, and then it's time to prime it in prep for the liquid rubber coating. So getting pretty close, pretty excited, can't wait to see how it looks. All right, so it's the next day and everything is dried up. Now I have this sealant out. This is the liquid rubber sealant and adhesive, so it's basically a caulk, but this is designed to go in the cracks. Now it's optional, you don't have to use it, and I don't have a lot of longitudinal cracks on my wood, but I do have a few. There's even some of these butt joints that I think it would be beneficial to actually put some caulk in there just to divert the water around, so it's not sitting there on top of the joist the best I can. So I'm gonna go and do that. The trick to this one is that you have to wait 24 hours before you can prime and coat afterwards. So you wanna plan ahead and do the caulk, you know, a full day, if not 2 days ahead of when you want to actually coat it. And for me, there's actually rain coming, so this works well. I'll go ahead and get this down today. It's gonna rain tonight and tomorrow, but then I'm gonna have to let it dry out before I actually do the coating. All right, there we go. So I just used about 1 3/4 or just about 2 tubes of caulk. Now you can see I did lots of butt joints that I kind of opened up over time, and then I did several nail holes that had expanded over time. Like I said, they used nail gun. This is like 34 years ago or so. So I just kind of filled those in a little bit. So not a whole lot of caulking. And then, you know, I just used cardboard box actually that the caulk came in to kind of smooth it out. And then I also used just my finger with the nitrile gloves on them. Nothing to get, you know, perfectly flat and smooth. If you wanted to, you could go over it obviously with a sander after it dries to smooth it out further. But this deck is fairly uneven and rustic, I would say. So I'm going to keep it that fashion and just use it like this. And so now I just have to let this stuff dry for at least 24 hours, and then I can do the primer and the coating itself. All right, it's about 9 a.m. in the morning now. It's been a couple days actually because it had a heavy downpour, and then I had to let it dry out for a few days. But now I believe it's all dry enough. It's not going to rain today at all, so I have a good opportunity to finally get this thing coated. Now I'm going to prime it first. They do tell you the primer is required, and one of the tricks to priming a deck or coating a deck just in general is getting between the board slats. So wherever you have the gap between the boards, you want to get the paint down in there. And now a paintbrush is one way you can do it, but that's the hard way. The easy way is actually, I found this out from other YouTube channels actually, is to use these edger refills. They have a little hook and loop, probably can't see it in the camera, but they have a little like hook that goes on the tool itself, but you can just cut that off with a pair of regular scissors, and then you get this flat board that if you have a normal size gap, I would say, you put 2 of them back to back so they have the little fuzzies on both sides. You dip this in the paint, and then you can put this between the boards. All right, so here's what I mean about kind of a standard gap, I would say. So you can get 2 of these back to back, and you can slide them down in there, and it fits almost perfectly that you can run it up and down, and that's going to coat both sides of those deck boards. But if I have ones like this one over here that are too thin, I can't even get a single one of these down in that thing. So those I'm just going to have to use the thick roller and get in there as best I can. But I'm going to try to go through and get all of these cracks first, and then I'll use the roller on top. It's important that you do that. depending on your boards, like I said, you might be able to use the little edger pads I have, or a paintbrush might be better. I'm also going to a 1/2" nap roller instead of the 3/8 they recommend, a little bit thicker. That's because my boards are pretty aged and they have a lot of roughness in them, and so I just want to make sure I get enough material or more coating on the boards to get it. And I'm hoping that'll get the grooves a little bit that are tight, and I can't even get my little edger board down in there. So now I'm going to take a cheap paintbrush I'm going to throw away at the end, and a disposable roller. I'm going to go and get all the little tight edges and places I can't get the big roller. I have a big 18-inch roller I'm going to put on there and make quick work of the top of the deck once I get all this detail stuff done. All right, so for me, this stuff dried pretty quickly. It took me like 2.5 hours to do the detail and then the rolling of the whole thing. So by the time I got done with the end down there, this up part by the house where I first started is dry. And in fact, I can even walk on this, doesn't even feel tacky. I'm sure the stuff I just did is still wet, but I have some time before I get to that. So I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting all the edges up against the house again with the liquid rubber this time. Now you have to put one thick coat of that primer on. They say 1 to 2, but I talked to them, they say if you get one good healthy thick coat, you should be good to go. So that's all I did was 1 coat, and now I'm going to start with the actual liquid rubber. I'm using the brown saddle color. Just to show you how nice, it's nice and thick, so it doesn't run very much on your brush, which is nice, and then it's easy to just kind of smooth on there. All right, so I went ahead and did a double coat where I did the cut in twice, because by the time I got all the way done, I could start back at the beginning again. And that just helped, you know, I was already in kind of a groove there, so I just kept going. I was able to get a double coat there of the deck coat, and so now I'm ready to do the main deck. This is the best part, and for this one I'm going with the 18-inch roller instead of the standard 9-inch roller. That's just going to help it go a lot faster. So I could have done that with a primer as well, but I didn't want to have to clean out that paint container again, so I just waited until this deck coat to use the big 18-inch roller. So let's get going and see how it goes. All right, so that is the first coat. Now, it went on pretty good. I did have lots of caulk joints that maybe I'm not going to get with the roller. We'll have to see if I can get them with additional coats here. But I might have to go back over with a paintbrush and get some of those, or even some of the deep crevices, like the knots in the wood that maybe didn't get enough paint in them. So that's not a big surprise to me, but I'm going to go ahead and keep going with the roller. And then at the very end, I'll go through and see if there's any sides of the boards or cracks, whatever, that I need to follow up with a paintbrush after I get done. So that's 1 coat. They say 3 to 4 heavy coats. I used about 3 gallons, and I think they sent me 17 gallons to cover my 850 square foot deck. My deck's actually a little bit smaller than that, so I sort of you know, put a little buffer on it, and then I'm sure they put an additional buffer. That means that about 5 coats of what I just did is what I looks like I have. So I'll see if I thought I put on pretty thick, but you know, it can go on thicker. So I'm going to try this 2nd coat and 3rd coat even thicker and see how much coverage I can get. All right, there we go. It is all done. Now it looks great. I've been actually very happy with it. It's been about 2 weeks now since I completed it. Put the furniture back. You want to wait a couple days just for it to fully harden up. I did 4 coats on the, especially the 3rd and 4th coat. I went super thick because after that first coat, you know, I saw I wasn't using as much of the product as I really needed to. Second coat I went thicker, but again I still had more product than I wanted to. So that 3rd coat, I really lathered it on so thick with the roller that the roller was basically sliding instead of rolling. And basically as soon as it started rolling, I would almost go back and re-dip the roller and use it again. So really heavy, and I was, you know, afraid that maybe that would cause problems, but did not. It actually dried very well. And I really like the finish. Now I actually used the same roller since I was able to basically do the deck from one side to the other and then go inside the house and come back to the place where I first started, and it had dried enough where you can walk on it without putting footprints on it. So I actually used the same roller the whole time I did the 4th thick coats. And what that meant is that the roller got a little bit worn out towards the end, or matted down. But I actually kind of liked the finish that it provided. I'll show that here up close, but it kind of has a little bit of a texture to it. Not completely smooth, but I actually like it. It gives you lots of grip even when it's wet out. There's tons of grip on this. I was a little bit concerned that maybe it would be slippery, but it's not at all. And I've been really happy with how it turned out. Also very happy with the railing that I did, the banisters. I just bought this from my local Menards, you know, 2x4s and some of this aluminum things. That worked out really well as well. That stuff I did not stain, obviously, with the liquid rubber deck coat. I just got it. It's actually their cedar pressure treated stain. But very happy with that. So retail price for the liquid rubber was under $2,000 for everything that I did, the caulk, the primer, the cleaner, all that kind of stuff. You can often find it on sale. In fact, if you use my link down below, you can get a discount. But there's also the railing, which cost me a little under $2,000 as well, maybe $1,500. So you know, I'm $3,000 to $4,000 is what it cost me to do this deck makeover, and it has completely transformed how this deck looks and how it's going to perform for us. So I've been very happy with it. We'll obviously see how it holds up over time. Do add a comment down below if you have questions about this, any other comments, or if it's been 1 year, 5 year down the road, you can comment and ask me, hey Nate, how's it holding up? Is it still doing well? And I will reply to those types of comments. So thanks everyone for tuning in. I appreciate you watching. Please give me that thumbs up and think about subscribing. Thanks.